What's up, the squad? Back with another video. I seen the title was going down. Make sure you hit the like button, hit that subscribe button for me, please. Y'all see it right here. I know a lot of people have been, wanting this. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of people have been wanting this. Says here, Randy Fine says he's working to get Ilhan Omar deported. A lot of people are calling for it. It's post right here. This is Randy Fine on Newsmax. Says Randy Fine just announced he's working on something very, very important, and that every American has been wanting to hear. Check it out.
Well, I agree with the president 100%. Ilhan Omar is a walking example of everything that is wrong with our legal immigration policy. We imported tens of thousands of people who hate America, add no value to it, rob and steal from us. And we're supposed to be okay with it. I don't think Ilhan Omar should be expelled from Congress. I think she should be expelled from the United States. And that's something that I'm working on. But what prompted me to take this position is she decided to send around fundraising emails saying I should be expelled from Congress. Well, if that's her view, she should go for it. And so what I've said is if I'm going to try to expel her, it won't be in a fundraising email. She'll deal with it on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives.
I feel like it's one of those things like what Ilhan Omar is doing. Like, coming to think about it, they're obviously going to play the defense. Obviously saying that she thinks that he needs to be expelled. Obviously, that's something that, is not surprising that she'll say. But at the same time, there are so many things that are coming out as far as Ilhan Omar alone, and obviously, others, but Ilhan Omar is in so many things, when it comes down to, in Minnesota, that I truly, truly do believe, and I know a lot of y'all, believe it as well, that it's either going to go, either way, whether if it's deportation, whether if it's, expelled, from Congress, whether if it's, that prison time, something, because it is a lot of things that, she is in. Says here, Ilhan Omar says she doesn't regret sponsoring the Mills Act that was defrauded in Minnesota for $250 million. Let's check it out.
And do you regret pushing forward that bill, the Mills Act? Do you think it led to the fraud?
Not. It did help feed kids.
I'm telling y'all, these individuals are sick. These individuals are sick, and they clearly show that they do not care. They truly show that they do not care. It says here, Somali Ilhan Omar is now defending her legislation that allowed billions in fraud out of Minnesota. I'm telling y'all, when I say that these individuals don't care, they do not care. And I say this, and I keep saying it to a lot of people, and I get on, this platform each and every day to try to let everybody know that they don't care. They truly do not care about any American. They care about what they have going on and only what they have going on. And people need to understand that. Let's check it out, Fox News.
This because I'm sure we will find even more connections. This is what Ilhan Omar said, defending the program that she introduced in the House that led to all of these billions being stolen.
Yeah, it's a quote. She's telling Fox Digital. So this is the 2020 Meals Act. Ilhan Omar drops legislation intended to feed poor children during COVID because they might not have access, and it opened up a 100% USDA waiver that was exploited grotesquely. Fox News asked her, do you regret pushing for that bill, the Meals Act? Do you think it led to the fraud? Ilhan Omar, absolutely not. It did help feed kids. Okay, you see those, how it started, how it ended. Let's do how this started, what the funds were meant for feeding children, for helping recovering addicts find a place to live, helping disabled adults live independently, one-on-one therapy for autistic children.
That was the promise.
That was the idea. Now, here's where the funds allegedly went. You see that on the right side of the screen. Wire transfers to China and East Africa, a villa in the Maldives, first-class plane tickets, luxury vehicles, lakefront property in Minnesota, designer jewelry, and crypto. And that's just among the things we know. Yet
designer jewelry, designer bag, and designer clothes, all of it.
Ilhan Omar, and to a lesser degree even Governor Walz, is not owning up to the fact that this was so grotesquely exploited that now the House Oversight Committee under Chairman James Comer is subpoenaing documents and may even drag people like Governor Walz up to Capitol Hill to say, did any of this money that was being sent back, forget the gifts and the luxury cars, did any of this money go back to terrorist organizations? And that's what we're going to find out.
Well, and there's other questions. People want to know, did the money go overseas, get laundered, and come back? Right. There's lots of questions, and so they should keep digging and digging and digging.
Definitely.
But it also comes to this fundamental question that we were talking about earlier, which is immigration. What kind of immigrants should we bring over? And I would say we should bring over immigrants who love our country. And if you're stealing from our country, if you're ripping us off, you don't love us. Right. And everybody who has any little finger in this pot should be taken out of here.
And if you set up an immigration system that invites people to come to this country so that they can steal, you have a really screwed up system.
Yeah. And again, we have at a more philosophical level, you have all this money going out. I don't know, they go, we need money for the kids because it's COVID. Right. And nobody's actually probably checking to say, is there a need? Right. Are there kids that aren't getting food because of COVID? Because there was a lot of crazy stuff happening during COVID. And so, the Democrats' idea of helping is just, here's money, get it out the door.
Never let them spend $2 trillion on anything.
Exactly. Well, and that's why you had the biggest fraud case in history, certainly in the state of Minnesota, with feeding our children. They were just making names up in rosters that didn't exist.
And to be fair, I've never seen more uncovering of fraud as much as it upsets us, and it's upsetting to see what they've done. This is the biggest fraud in our history, I think, what happened in Minnesota.
Yeah, exactly.
But all the fraud that has been uncovered through Doge and other things, USAID, that is very encouraging. I think it will be the legacy of this administration, the amount of government fraud that we are uncovering, and it's a testament to that there's just too much money in government.
One thing about it, I truly feel, and I know I probably will have, some different opinions on this when I say this, but I truly feel I would definitely be surprised if they don't, take further action, whether if it's, deportation or, jail time, prison time, for any of these individuals that's involved. Speaking on, and I, again, whether if it's Ilhan Omar, whether if it's Keith Ellis, whether it's Tim Walz, either of them. I definitely would be surprised seeing how this fraud that has become, so big, I definitely have to say that I do, in fact, want them to keep digging just because I want, and I know y'all want, more to happen. So I definitely want them to keep digging, on way more, than what they've seen and what they've accomplished so far. Says here, the fraud in Minnesota is staggering. And if we lived in a sensible society, Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar would have been indicted already. Telling y'all. Says Somalia stole upwards of $18 billion. The entire GDP is $12 billion. Let's check it out.
If we lived in a sensible society, the people running that state would be removed from power permanently. Over the past few weeks, the Somali fraud story started off at around $1 billion, right? And that was bad enough. That quickly became billions. And then yesterday, that number skyrocketed. The U.S. attorney in Minnesota talking about a completely different scheme here, announcing state programs were targeted with fraud, and the state is absolutely swamped with these crimes, he says. The feds believe a significant amount of the $18 billion paid out by Medicaid to Minnesota programs was fraudulent. Prosecutors believe it could be as much as half of that $18 billion. So that's $9 billion more added to the already billions we've seen. Added up, you're getting close to potentially $20 billion in potential fraud, a huge sum of that, much of that stolen by Somalian refugees, people who begged for their lives to be allowed into your country and then thanked you by stealing a tremendous amount of money. Now, we're talking 15, 20 billion, right? For reference, the entire gross domestic product of the nation of Somalia annually is $12 billion. It is one of the most ridiculous stories I have seen after doing news for 20 years. Here's the U.S. Attorney for Minnesota describing the absolute scale of this operation.
Minnesotans and taxpayers deserve to know the truth of the fraud. The fraud is not small. It isn't isolated. The magnitude cannot be overstated. What we see in Minnesota is not a handful of bad actors committing crimes. It's a staggering industrial scale fraud.
A staggering industrial scale fraud. Minnesota and the people who run the state are now the picture of total failure. And there they are right there. And guess which political party they all pledge allegiance to? These are the most incompetent, corrupt, pathetic people in American politics.
Definitely.
That's an abysmal picture.
Definitely. And that's why I keep on exaggerating that I want them to keep and continue to dig into more, because it definitely is. I definitely would say that it's very important, for them to do this. So, we actually see, and I truly feel as if, we see it every single day. I get on X and, you get on these platforms and you see how bad it is in these different places. And I want this to be more so of an example, of what it shouldn't be, in these other places. I truly feel that way, This just goes to show you right here of how, sick they are. Check out what Tim Walz says right here, y'all.
We know there is no separating Minnesota of who we are from our Somali brothers and sisters. It is such a part of it is part of who we are. It's such a good part of who we are in every aspect of our life. And the opportunity that we have in Minnesota, as we said, to make sure there is no reason that every single person in Minnesota has to go to bed hungry at night. We have the ability to feed everyone, to make sure every child goes to school. There's no reason to have lunch tickets and lunch counters and lunch money and that. We have the ability to provide universal meals for breakfast and lunch to every single Minnesotan. There's no reason we shouldn't be able to house every Minnesotan with investments to make sure that they're culturally appropriate ways that we can make sure we lend and have the ability to build housing to transfer wealth down through generationally. And there's absolutely no reason that anyone in Minnesota, especially our children, shouldn't have the option for affordable quality health care. We have the best providers in the world, and we have the capacity to do that. I want to thank our friends in the legislature. I know Steve Elkins is here and others. We have a budget that reflects those values. We have a budget that reflects the care that you see in this room and the sense of community. So I, along with you, as I'm thinking and reflecting on what kind of world do we want to live in, I'm just grateful that there's...
Let me explain something to y'all. It's one thing about doing what you can for Americans. I ain't even gonna say Minnesotans. I'm gonna say Americans in general. U.S. citizens, people that, pay their taxes, people that actually, have their respect, for one another, have their respect for, for the country. That's one thing. But to go as far as, to make everything about, Somalians, there's no separating Minnesota from our Somali brothers and sisters. There's no reason for I truly feel as if, it irks my nerves. It irks my nerves. I was actually just talking to, a family member about, this situation of why does everything have to be brought up, into, race, into, why can't it just be, individuals coming together, in Minnesota, not just, oh, yeah, our Somali, bro. You're showing them that you want them to be, separated and not a part of that. And you obviously see that they are having their own, they're doing their own thing. You see that Ilhan Omar has taken opportunity, a legal opportunity, and what they're doing and how separate they're being. I mean, I'm telling y'all, these individuals, they do not care. I'm telling y'all, check it out right here.
Can you shed any light on why the fraud got so out of control in Minnesota?
I think what happened is that, when you have these kind of new programs that are designed to help people, you're oftentimes relying on third parties to be able to facilitate. And I just think that a lot of the COVID programs that were set up, they were set up so quickly that a lot of the guardrails did not get created.
I'm telling y'all, again, seen a legal opportunity, took that opportunity, just like this individual said right here. I think what happened is I saw opportunity. Basically what, Ilhan Omar is saying. And I truly feel as if they need to keep on digging, and do whatever they can possible to find everything they possibly can, to get these individuals and give that, you know, set that example of what shouldn't happen. I truly feel as if, you know, make sure y'all hit the like button, hit that subscribe button. Definitely appreciate y'all. Much love to every single last one of y'all. Stay tuned for the next video dropping tonight. Catch y'all next one.